Ciao a tutti e bentornati a Italian Accelerator, episodio 5, e questa è la prima lezione di grammatica associata all'episodio 5. As I said, this is the first explainer lesson associated to this episode. Now, it's episode number 5, and it's a kind of 8-9 minute chat with Lisa that you can see over there. Lovely, lovely person. You like her because she speaks a lot more slowly than I do. That's just a natural way of speaking. And you have to make sure that you have watched that episode, but not only watched it. If you've only seen it once, I don't think you're ready for this lesson. My idea as your Italian language coach is to get you to maximize my content and your time. And therefore, I urge you to watch that video a few times. You have to be able to understand as much as possible without the subtitles. Then, when you're done with that, you can turn on the subtitles and watch it a few more times until you get all of it. How would you do that? Well, you'd have to pause, find the expressions in the subtitles that you maybe weren't able to hear, but now you're reading them, and look them up. And now I come in and explain a lot more and give you a lot of tips on how you can use those things. Okay, so let's start with the first segment. I have some great news also. There's a few things that you are going to love about this new Italian Accelerator. First one, like I said, Lisa, she has a lovely way of speaking. She speaks a lot more slowly than I do, so you will definitely appreciate that. Also, in terms of speed, somebody asked me in one of the messages, are you trying to speak more slowly? No, we're not. That's Lisa's speed, and that is my speed. At times, we may have slowed down maybe like at 10%, because we're more mindful of what we're doing, but overall this is a natural conversation between two Italian native speakers. And also a little note on the level of Italian that we're using, it is conversational, so we are speaking as people speak, we're not speaking as people write, and that's why I don't support scripted dialogues as a way of learning a language. The other great thing that happens with this particular episode is that I'm going to be a lot more thorough with my explanations. In the past, I would select some portions of a clip or a conversation in Italian, and then I would discuss those. This time, I'm going to talk about the whole 8-minute clip that you've watched. So every second that that conversation is going to be analyzed, because I think this is really going to help you even more than the previous version of Italian Accelerator. So let's just start with the first clip.
Ciao Manu!
Ciao, come stai?
Benissimo!
Now, obviously, that was at the time when we were slowing down. That's because it's the beginning of the conversation. It was totally awkward for us to say hello to each other because we were sitting next to each other and talking to each other. So obviously you understood all of that, and that's not the speed of the conversation.
Parliamo di come ci siamo conosciuti.
Ok, io sono qui in Australia da 2 anni. Ho cominciato la scuola di inglese e tramite la mia maestra ci siamo conosciuti, tramite la mia maestra che mi ha parlato, Natasha, che mi ha parlato di te.
Let's look at the first expression that we have for you, and it's me asking Lisa, come ci siamo conosciuti? Come ci siamo conosciuti? This means how did we meet? Okay. Now this is the verb conoscere, which means to know. It's used in its reflexive version, conoscersi, which means to know each other, which makes it a reciprocal verb, which makes it to meet, pretty much, okay? Whenever we use the verb conoscere, which means to know, in the past tense, it means to meet, okay? So this is something that you may sometimes get wrong. Conoscere in the passato prossimo means to meet, to encounter for the first time, okay? It's actually important. It means to meet for the first time, not to catch up. Okay, so not like I met a friend. No. This one is the meeting for the first time, and that's what we're talking about, how we met. As a reflexive verb, The way I conjugated was come ci siamo conosciuti. So it's the verb conoscere in the passato prossimo, which if it was just conoscere, it would be abbiamo conosciuto. We have met, abbiamo conosciuto, or we have known. But because I'm using it with the meaning of meeting, therefore I'm using it reflexively, the auxiliary has to become essere. All reflexive verbs use essere as the auxiliary in the past tense. So we end up with ci siamo conosciuti, because whenever the auxiliary is essere, you know that the past participle has to agree in gender and number with the subject. So that's how we end up to come ci siamo conosciuti, meaning how did we meet. And Lisa says that we met tramite la mia maestra. Tramite. Tramite, it kind of means throughout, okay? So we met through my teacher. Not in the sense that like something that goes through something else. It's more of the way something is done. So you can achieve this through a lot of effort, that kind of through, okay? So it's tramite. Tramite la mia maestra, through my teacher.
Che sei un insegnante di italiano e stavi cercando delle persone per fare conversazioni in italiano, così ci siamo messi in contatto e
È nato l'amore.
è nato il nostro amore.
Sì, fraterno.
Yes.
Benissimo. So, Lisa says that her teacher, Natasha, told her about me, that I was a teacher, and that I was looking for native speakers, native Italian speakers. Stavi cercando. You probably know this one. Stavi means you were, using the verb stare, and then cercando is the gerund, the ing version of cercare, which means to look for. If you don't know this structure, that's how Italian creates the continuous form. In English, you use the verb to be plus the ing version of the verb, like I am looking for, I am studying. In Italian, we always use the verb stare for that structure, and then the ing form, which is the verb minus the are, ere, ire ending, replacing there with ando or endo, just in case you didn't know. So cercando means looking for. Stavi cercando, you were looking for. The reason I'm talking to you, I'm telling you this, is that in Italian we do not use the continuous form a lot, because the simple form already covers that. In the present tense, I can just say mangio un panino to mean I am eating a sandwich. I don't need to say sto mangiando un panino. So especially in the past, when the imperfetto already gives the continuous idea. So cercavi, which would mean you were looking for. So cercavi has the same meaning as stavi cercando. So why are we using the continuous form here when the imperfetto is already enough? Well, we tend to use the continuous form in Italian when we're really emphasizing that something is happening right then, right at the time that we're talking about. So, yes, because when Natasha, the teacher, talked to Lisa, I was actually physically, literally looking for somebody. So that's when we would use, optionally, the continuous form in Italian as well, and that's stavi cercando, you were looking for. Now here is two things out of this one. Ci siamo messi in contatto. That means we got in touch. So the first thing that I want to tell you is the expression to get in touch, which is mettersi in contatto. So the verb mettere, to put, mettersi, use it reflexively, in contatto, to put oneself in contact, okay? That means to get in touch. The other thing that I want to point out, like I said before, whenever we use a verb in its reciprocal form, which basically it's a reflexive verb, the auxiliary has to be essere. That's why we are saying ci siamo messi and not abbiamo messo, which would mean we have put. Ci siamo messi, we put ourselves in touch, okay? So notice this because you may not be getting this right all the time. So reflexive verbs, again, use essere as the auxiliary always in the passato prossimo, and the past participle always agrees with the subject, okay? So we met through that, and then I said, e è nato un amore, and love was born. Now, why am I pointing this out? So, è nato un amore. Why is un amore later? Because in English you say a love or love was born. And this is something that we do a lot in Italian, and you sometimes don't understand why we're doing it, and you accuse Italian of being backwards. Italian is not backwards compared to English. Our syntax is very often the same. It's very, very similar. It only differs mildly in questions, because in English we have words like do, or inversion of verb and subject, have you done, which we don't do in Italian, so that's when it's different. But overall, it's very similar. It is different often in the third person. And I've tried to explain this in the past, I think, in another episode. I don't remember which one, so I'll tell you again. But you have to look at it from a grammatical point of view in Italian. Italian subjects are incorporated in the verb. So if I say ho mangiato, I don't need to say io, because ho mangiato can only mean I have eaten or I ate. So if I say a che ora parti, what time are you leaving, I don't have to say tu, because parti can only work for tu. So that's why we don't use the subjects in Italian. We have to throw in the subject when we need to create some kind of emphasis. So if you and your friend are telling me that you're both leaving, and then I want to know at what time you are leaving and not her, then I would say a che ora parti tu, as opposed to her, or as opposed to me. So that's when we would throw in the subject. Because it's extra information, we throw in the subject after the verb, because it wasn't needed, but we're choosing to throw it in, so it goes after. This happens a lot in the third person, because when I say è nato, well, grammatically speaking, the subject is clear, it's it. But I haven't said what it is, or you don't know what I'm talking about, so we are going to add that information. So instead of saying un amore è nato, which would mean love was born, I'm saying è nato un amore. Now, if I wasn't trying to make a point, I wasn't making an exclamation, I wasn't making a remark, then if that was my sentence, like if I want to say that love was born out of necessity, I don't know, then I would say l'amore è nato da una necessità. So if love was really the subject of a sentence, meaning the most important thing, then it would go the way you would normally put it. But here I'm kind of creating emphasis. Every time we emphasize, we do something strange in Italian. It has to stand out. How does it stand out? We move it. That's why it looks weird to you sometimes. That's it for the first explainer lesson, that is my grammar lesson or explanation lesson attached to episode 5 of Italian Accelerator. I encourage you to watch the original chat one more time before next week, where we get back together for explainer lesson number 2 for this particular episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big like and share it if this could help anybody that you know. And if you're not a subscriber already, please do subscribe e ci vediamo presto. Grazie, ciao ciao. Ragazzi, per non perdere nessuna lezione di italiano, attivate le notifiche. Si fa così: prima vi iscrivete al canale, poi fate clic sulla campana vicino al bottone rosso e selezionate questa opzione. Salvate e via! Facile, no?